Hello, everyone. Good to see you all again. Oops, there goes my phone. Okay. So I've changed the meditation slightly from what we've been doing. So just go with the flow. And at the end, instead of coming out of meditation, I'd like you to stay with your eyes closed and just listen to what I have to say. So let's start with making the mandala mudra and offering the mandala. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, I will reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. Okay, let's watch our breath for 2 sets of 10. Go for refuge in the fact that the teachings this weekend can help us change our behavior in order to really protect us at the moment of death and improve our practice tremendously. Next, think of bodhicitta. Think of someone you know who's having trouble, mental, physical, emotional. Think how much you'd like to be able to help them and grow that feeling in your heart. Invite your holy being to come and meditate with you. See them sit in the air in front of you, a full-length prostration away, life-size, at eye level, smiling, happy that you're doing this practice. Mentally prostrate to them, thanking them for their good qualities, their inspiration. Make them an offering. Some part of your practice you did well today or yesterday. Next, confess, regret a wrong deed you've done the last 24 hours. Replay it and determine to try hard not to do it again, setting a reasonable time frame. Next, rejoice. Tell them the specific goodness that you did and be happy about it. Now ask for teachings, both formal and informal. Remember to go throughout the day looking for teachings from people. Now ask the teachers to stay, pray for their long lives and their continued involvement with us. Okay, shift around. Try really hard for the next half an hour or so. Not to move, not to open your eyes, just focus on what I'm saying and the imagery that we're trying to develop. You've been struggling through this thick, dark forest with the trail seemingly going nowhere for a long time. You are tired from having carried a heavy backpack that contains all of your possessions. Things are even strapped to the outside because you have so much stuff that you feel you cannot live without. The stuff on the outside of your backpack has been catching the branches and made the trip hard. Your arms and face are all scratched up. You're hot, you're tired, and you're thirsty. You look up from the trail and see that you're at the edge of the forest, finally going to be through it. As you step out into the clearing, you see below you a meadow with a farmer's market that's in progress. On the other side of the market is an open-air cafe, and you set your sights on it as you are hungry and thirsty. You see beyond the cafe a swiftly flowing river with an ornate arched wooden bridge crossing to the other side. You just barely see an adobe-like structure, and at its entrance, there seems to be a cluster of guards. Just ahead of you in the meadow, and spread across the width of it, are vendors with all kinds of produce, broccoli, potatoes, different kinds of lettuce, zucchini, fresh fruit, fresh bread. There's a section of the market for vendors of household items and artwork. The market is full of people milling around looking at the vendors. You step into the clearing, eager to be amongst people again. You walk towards the cafe, noting which vendors you'll come back to after you eat. Luckily, there's a booth with tote bags nearby so you can gather more things. You have to initially gently push past people to get to the cafe. At first, you're gentle, but they start to push back and grab at what is strapped to the outside of your pack. It's beginning to feel like everyone for him or herself. You gently slap their hands, defending your stuff, all the while trying to get to the cafe. This scene is like someone living in denial of their inevitable death. We constantly struggle to get what we want or think we need. We struggle to protect our stuff from people who think they need it more than we do. We unconsciously use up our good karma and create negative karma without a moment's hesitation. This is our image of the problem of not meditating on death. Without meditating on death, we will never come to see how useless and petty much of what we do really is. You break out of the crowd, thinking to yourself, there's something wrong with this picture. I cannot go on like this. Something has to change. The thought dissipates as you near the cafe tent, drawn in by the smell of fresh bread and roasted vegetables. You reach the cafe, find an empty table, and take off your backpack. You've been craving a fresh mozzarella cheese and roasted red pepper sandwich, and as if by magic, there's one on the menu, and you order it along with a large iced coffee. As you eat your meal, you begin to think about what you should get at the market and just how big that extra bag you should be. You finish your meal with the intent to go back, but as you pick up your backpack and feel how heavy it is, you realize you actually need to get rid of stuff instead of getting more. You leave the cafe and walk toward the ornate arched wooden bridge. You walk up to the high point at the center. The bridge represents the start of doing a good death meditation. You realize you need to start getting rid of things. You need to start changing your life. And part of that's to get rid of the stuff you don't really need. You put the backpack down, open it. You start to throw items over the bridge railing, identifying them as you do so. As you do so, you notice some are objects on the pilings for the bridge support. Someone has been there before you. The stuff in the backpack represents all of our unnecessary possessions, relationships, inaccurate beliefs, opinions, activities. You pull out a canteen, and perhaps it represents the huge house mortgage that you struggled to get out from under. You bought too big a house, and you've been struggling, working extra hours to pay for it when you really don't need that big and fancy a house. Your flashlight is your need for the latest cell phone. The camp stove is your habit of eating out constantly because you don't like to cook. And it's another reason you have to work so hard at a job you don't really like to pay for the habit of eating out. The bedroll represents that friend that just likes to go to the bar and argue politics. You do that every Friday night for hours. Perhaps now you see it as a waste of time. Without meditating on death, we'll never come to see how useless and petty much of what we do really is. And that's how we perpetuate this cycle of life, samsara. You pick up your pack, it's much lighter now. You continue across the bridge, and you've gotten rid of these things without regret. This is the key. You cannot have regret. You're over the bridge. The backpack is very light, but you're still dirty and hot and tired. You look ahead and see the gauntlet of armed guards that you must pass through to make it to the meadow in front of the adobe building. They are brandishing swords and maces and whips. They represent the other kind of death meditation, where you would practice the terror and panic of death. You realize this, and you muster your remaining strength and courage and run right past them before they can react. Suddenly, you find yourself in a peaceful meadow, refreshed, clean. You no longer have the backpack. You are carefree and walk slowly towards the adobe building. You walk right up to a 7-step landing made of granite, leading up to a tall, ornately carved yellow door. Engraved on the door are the words, "Death is certain." You open the door, it swings into the room to the left. You step in, it's cool and dark inside. The room is circular. You shut the door. You hear a sound to your right, and a large, vicious animal, you're not quite sure what kind, lunges at you, snapping its jaws. It's restrained by a chain to be just out of reach of you. It can't wait to sink its teeth into you. This is the Lord of Death, and if he gets a hold of you, your death is a certainty. When your karma for this life run wears out, it's as if the chains restraining the beast breaks, and you are toast. You move to the center of the room, and you see a large hourglass standing on a table waist high. The opalescent sand is flowing down quickly. This is your life leaking away. The hourglass is affixed to the table. You can't turn it over. Nothing can stop the flow. You can't take a rest. You must move on. You look beyond the table and you see a corridor leading from the room. Because you feel your life is slipping away as represented by the hourglass, you run through the opening into the corridor. Along the walls are images of all the different teachers you've had, the teachings you've attended. You stop for a minute and start looking at the first ACI courses you took. But then you remember your life is running out. You have no time to study. So you run by the rest of the images. This represents that you never have enough time to study because you're doing other trivial things. This represents collecting teachings rather than practicing teachings. You reach the end of the corridor and you see a green door with a sign that says, "Time of death is uncertain." You open the door, Step into a triangular room. You're at the apex, and at the base across the room from you is the red door. In front of you is a beautiful glass and chrome table with a calendar on it, marked with your birthday. Next to it is a sign that says 72 years. You recall that lifespans are not fixed. So to think your average lifespan is 72 years and you'll live that long is a fundamental ignorance. Because all that graph, all that 72 years means that's the median time lifespan for people. Half of them don't live that long, half of them live longer. Which half are you? You walk past the table with the calendar and you find yourself in a setting like your living room at home. You see all your stuff, but you know that somewhere in all of it is a tripwire that could set off a metaphorical bomb. This is a very realization that there's so much that can kill you in life and so little to sustain you. You look at each object in the living room and wonder, is this what could kill me? The beautiful coffee table from IKEA with sharp corners that if you tripped and fell and hit your head against could kill you. The reading lamp, which flickers and has a switch that really needs replacing. And sometimes when you touch it, it's hot due to faulty wiring, and that could start a fire. You walk into your kitchen and your eyes settle on the toaster that is plugged in. You remember a friend telling you that their toaster spontaneously caught fire once. You remember about the battery charger for your first battery-powered drill melting from faulty wiring and starting to smoke, just as something caused you to go into the workshop and check on it, saving you from burning down your house. You walk further out of the kitchen towards the red door, across the thick white rug. You feel something prick the sole of your foot. You sit down in a chair, look at the sole of your left foot and see that you've stepped on that thumbtack that you dropped a week ago and neglected to pick up. You take off your shoe and sock and see that you're bleeding slightly. You have a puncture wound. Yes, it's a small wound that's coming from a thumbtack. But puncture wounds are notorious for getting infected. So even the smallest thing, like stepping on a thumbtack, could kill you. You recall your body is very fragile. Mutations in DNA from one cosmic ray are due to a pollution chemical. You don't know how such a mutation would affect you. Now you're in front of the red door, and on it a sign says, "Only the Dharma can help." You open it to the left and step inside. You enter a corridor like a greenhouse. You can see out through the glass, but it's one-way glass, so nobody else can see you. You stop. On both sides of the corridor, you see loved ones and your closest friends. They're all having a good time and are unaware of you. You bang on the glass trying to get their attention, which of course you can't. Hey, don't forget me. You're angry they've forgotten you already. Remember, they will forget you. Continue walking, and now you see a room on both sides of the corridor that's full of all your treasured stuff, but it's disorganized, just tossed into boxes, strangers poking through it. Your beloved truck is there, and several people are poking around, pointing out the scratches, the worn seat covers. You get upset. You can't take any of your possessions with you, and you're upset that you cannot get to them, and others don't seem to care. Now you're at the end of the corridor. You see yourself in a morgue. There's a corpse on the gurney. You look carefully at it, and it's your body. The face is featureless, unrecognizable. You recall that you cannot take your body with you. Your face, your name, your identity of this past life are gone. So what does come with me? Only my karma and only your bodhisattva vows, if you've taken them. You turn back into the corridor and you see a white door with the words, 3 resolutions. You open the door, step into a turret-shaped room. High up on the wall is a diamond-shaped window, and a beam of light shines down into the center of the room. To your left, leaning against the wall, is a wooden staff slightly taller than you with a wooden handle. You reach out with your left hand. It's important that it is your left hand. Take the staff and it fits perfectly, like it was made for you. As you take it, you say to yourself, if it is sure that I'm going to die, I decide now to start my spiritual practice. Take one step forward, starting with your left foot towards the sunlight, but not in it yet. As you do, you pound the staff on the ground and hear the sharp noise that it makes. This represents your decision. If I don't know when I'm to die, I must start my spiritual practice now. Now I will quit my worldly way of thinking. That does not mean you give up everything and move to a cave. It means you start to carefully think about and organize your life, getting rid of the petty distractions. So that when the time comes, you can die with peace instead of worrying about the trivial things that aren't important. You step forward, starting with the left foot into the sunlight. You raise the staff high over your head. This represents your decision. If nothing but my spiritual life can help me, then I devote myself to my spiritual practice. There is no point in doing anything less, and I strive for the highest practice. Look to the right and see a door of royal blue color shimmering. You lower your staff and point to it, the door. It is the highest spiritual practice. On the door are the words Dakshin Namje, exchanging self for others. Your resolution to practice only the highest practice gives you the desire to open the door. You open the door to the left and step into a small restaurant. You walk up to the maitre d', who recognizes you, and immediately takes you into one of several small rooms adjoining the main room. These little rooms are linked together with openings but no doors. There's a person reading a book in a reading chair against the far wall in the first room. And when you enter the room, they get up and you both simultaneously go to the dining table that is in the middle of the room. This is a beautiful teak dining table. It's got a blue cloth and a set for 2. Next to it is a large ornate serving cart with chafing dishes, keeping warm several main meals, which is a tradition in this restaurant. There is no menu. Next to that cart is a cart with several cold drinks, and next to that is yet another cart that's a dessert cart. After you both take your napkins and lay them on your lap, as the other person turns to look at the serving tray of the main course, You focus your eyes on their eyes to ascertain which of the main courses they're looking at with the greatest attention. You realize they focused on the dish that's a plate of quinoa and lentils mixed with roasted green chilies and sliced olives, seasoned with caramelized onions and curry sauce. You take the plate and place it in front of them. This represents the physical level of serving others. You look again at their eyes and see which drink they linger on, and you hand them the glass of water on the cart with lemon, no ice, that they turned their eyes to. This represents the basic level of serving their emotional needs. To complete their meal, they look at the dessert selection. And again, you watch and select the piece of chocolate swirl cheesecake they focus their attention on. This represents their spiritual needs. You excuse yourself and you get up and go to the next room where there's another table. This time it's an oak table with a yellow tablecloth, again set for two. As you enter the room, the same person is again sitting in a reading chair and gets up and joins you at the table. There's another set of serving dishes with the same choices for the meal. This time you ask the person to sit in your spot and you sit in theirs. You're exchanging yourself for them. As they think about dinner, beverage, and dessert, you are them and you get it for them because you are thinking and know in advance what would make them happy because of your attention to detail in the first room. You're trying to think like they do, acting out of awareness for others' needs. The distinction between you and them is still there, but it's fading as you try hard to anticipate their needs as much as you concern yourself about your needs. What is fading is your habit of thinking of yourself first. It is not as if you're physically becoming them and losing your own identity. This represents the medium level of bodhicitta. You get up again and move to one more oval room. At the center is a small cafe table with a checkered tablecloth and two chairs. As you walk into the room, the same person gets up from a reading chair and joins you at the table. You both sit down. A spice cake with cream cheese icing is in the middle of the table. Next to it is a ball of red string. You get up from the chair, you pick up the ball, and you unroll it, lay it on the floor counterclockwise, encompassing the table and chairs, and you tie the ends together. You deliberately step inside the circle. This represents breaking down the distinction between you and the other person. You both pick up your forks and mirroring each other's movements, magically take the same piece of cake. That both of you eat the same piece of cake at the same time represents that it's incomplete to make efforts for our own happiness when billions of people are equally wanting to be free from suffering. The practice of exchanging self for others is a difficult concept to truly grasp, but it's critically important that you're not losing your identity, but rather expanding your sense of identity to include others. You get up and walk to a silver door. You open the door and you see inside an ornate, luxuriously wood-paneled, six-sided room. This is the end of the death meditation as it joins the long room meditation room on the bodhicitta, being a bodhisattva, in the Lamrim meditation on the path to enlightenment. So return to the Lama before you. Ask them to come to your heart and stay with you. They're thrilled to be asked. They rise up and turn the face the same way you are. Shrink down, come to sit on top of your head the size of a pea. Descend through a tube of blue light to your heart, where there's a tiny room from the outside, but once inside it's big. It's got a lotus flower on a center cushion made of moonlight. They sit and they will stay with you. We leave this meditation with this powerful thought and conviction. I want to be happy and free from suffering. Everyone wants to be happy and free from suffering. I now know what prevents me and others from being totally happy. So I will try as hard as I can to become a totally enlightened being so I can really be of service to other people. I will try and mold myself into a happy person, an ultimately happy person, so that I can have this influence on others to lead them to the same state of happiness. Please keep this thought in your mind from Dzongkhapa's Golden Harvest of Attainment. I will free all those who have yet to be free. I will save all those who have yet to be saved. I will comfort all those who have no comfort. I will deliver all living beings beyond grief. Now, I would like to read to you the dedications I did at the end of every meditation session during my 3-year retreat. It's a little bit long, but it means a lot to me, and I hope I can transmit a bit of that feeling to you. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Filled with wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. May all sentient beings know happiness and the causes of happiness, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings never be separated from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free from attachment and aversion, and may I help them achieve this. O Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, O Tara, Mother of us all, please listen to what I now say from the depths of my heart. Watch over Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snow. He who is of one taste with Avalokiteshvara, guide him and protect him, that he may live long to bring liberation to his people and the Dharma to all sentient beings. May all his goals and wishes be achieved. Through this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all living beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhas, always increase. May the merit of my life and my practice be for the benefit of all living beings without exception. O Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, please listen to what I now say. Just as all the previous Sugatas generated the mind of enlightenment and practiced in accordance with Bodhisattva precepts, so shall I too, in order to benefit all that lives, give birth to bodhicitta and follow its precepts. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect oneness. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every level and path, and then Reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. By the goodness of what we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Thank you so much for the opportunity to teach you this wonderful material. I would like to ask that you try to do the meditation, even if it's just, you don't memorize it, you read it. Try and do the meditation and think of what we've talked about today and this weekend. Make an effort to organize your life in such a way that if you were to die today, you would not be a burden to others. People would know what you want done with your stuff. You know now not to make sure not to have certain things on your mind. When you die, you don't want to have regrets. You want to be thinking positive things. I've given you the tools to make your impending death, when you get to that stage, much less frightening and much less conducive to a positive rebirth. But now it's up to you to do something with it. So, thank you. I'll stay here for a few minutes if anybody has any remaining questions. I will send you a copy of this version of the meditation once class is over.
Lama Sumati, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you do this meditation every day, or how do you apply, like in the daily basis, to remind?
Well,
because, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of you have several commitments. Many of you have the Medicine Buddha commitment. That's a good question, Louisa. That's when I did this, I didn't have many commitments, so it's easy to do it. Let's see, it took us approximately 40 minutes to do. I'm not gonna give you a commitment that you have to follow, because I don't think that's the appropriate thing to do. I don't know what level of practice you all are. If it was me and I was starting this, I would read through the printed meditation every day for a month. And if it was me, I would do the meditation every day for a month. Because you want to burn this into your mind so that you'll act accordingly. The whole thing about exchanging self from others is to get us thinking about bodhicitta, thinking about taking on other people's suffering, treating them as we would treat ourselves. So to me, the only way to really do that is to work with this meditation as best you can over the next 30 days. Geshe says 3 months. I mean, that would be wonderful, but a lot of training and teachings are coming up in the next several months. So I don't want this to conflict with what other teachers would say. If you want to make me a happy camper, read this every day for a month, and please try to do the meditation. And then organize your life so that if something happens to you, you know, as like I did when I rolled my truck, my thought wasn't, oh no, what's going to happen now to my worldly possessions and things. My curiosity my concern was what was going to happen next for me. I was interested in that. I wasn't thinking about whether I told my wife I loved her, whether I left the house angry, whether I left a mess in my office. All that was because of the death meditation. All that was taken care of. So I didn't have things on my mind that were going to make projecting and finishing karma not what I wanted.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I already started with the mess. Not to leave the mess to my husband.
Well, if you don't do it today or tomorrow, you put it off and you won't end up doing it. I can't tell you how much of as I was rolling my truck, how wonderful it felt to know that I had followed the instructions of the death meditation. And I was free of the encumbrance of worrying about the trivial things. When I was choking on that grapefruit, same thing. I wasn't worried about whether or not my lovely wife knew I loved her, whether I'd organized everything so there was a will in place. If I was going to go, I was going to go. No regrets. Okay. Thank you again, everybody who's still here. I appreciate you coming to class. I appreciate those of you that got up or stayed up till 3 in the morning.
Thank you for teaching us and giving
You're
us
welcome.
this blessing.
Thank you, Venerable Sumati, for teaching. Please stay.
Thank you so much, Venerable Sumati, for teaching us. Please keep teaching us and stay with us.
Well, I'm going to do my best. We have class tomorrow. Okay. There's nobody else that's... Anybody else want to ask me a question?
Just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It's always a joy to be able to teach. I just wish I spoke Russian so I could actually do the meditation with you in Russian, but that I don't think you want to hear me try and speak Russian. You have no idea what I was saying. I barely speak English properly. If you do have further questions, please feel free to email me. I think use the Svetlana, if they need to email me, have them use the Sumati. Okay, this is my email. Don't make me regret this. I don't want to get ads from Amazon due to the fact that you're emailing me. This is my email address I'd like you to use. Sumati, Sumati, BEC 20 @gmail.com. I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible.
And for everybody who would like to join, there's also the At Your Service sessions. So we could post a link in our study group that was opened for this course. And everybody who has questions.
No, good idea. That's a great idea, Joanna. It's a great idea. Of course, now we may have to do more than an hour. But thank you. I didn't think of it. That's a perfect venue for doing this, because then we can get my wife, who I call the Oracle, involved in the answers. Well, I'm going to go have breakfast. We have a friend coming over, daughter of one of our students. She has a birthday today, and I'm making the spice cake with cream cheese icing. It's my wife's favorite. It's actually called tomato soup cake. You use a can of tomato soup in the recipe. It sounds terrible, but it's really a very tasty spice cake. Of course, the best part's the icing. And since I'm making the icing, I'll need to taste test it more than once to make sure it's okay. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Love you all. Thank you again. It's a privilege to teach you all. Bye-bye.